Okay, I'll be discussing the Open Run value chain with deep dive on those components, or let's say stakeholders of the value chain in Open Run. But before that, okay, I'll let's discuss muna what is the difference between the supply chain and the value chain. So sometimes kasi these two terms, okay, are being changed being used interchangeably, okay, but actually they are of different perspectives. When we talk about the supply chain, okay, when we talk about the supply chain, it deals with on how we transport the raw materials to the customers, process it, and deliver the products to our customers. Okay, so the supply chain and the value chain, they are not contrary to each other. Let's say, for example, in software development, okay, we have a company, okay, a software company that we are using waterfall methodology on our SDLC. And then another one uses yung mas bago, which is yung agile methodology naman kami when we develop our software. So when speaking of supply chain and value chain, hindi sila contrary. Okay, so let's look at supply chain and value chain in three perspectives. One is the workflow. Okay, one is the workflow. For the workflow, okay, the supply chain is the movement of raw resources. We build products or services from it, and then we distribute it to the customer. Okay, so it starts at sourcing out those materials. Let me know if you are seeing my screen for. All right. And then for the value chain, okay, it's starts naman on co-creating the value with our customers. Okay, and we seek to imbue those products and services with the values that we have researched as it moves along the supply chain. So think of it as, let's say we are a car manufacturer. Yeah. If you want to build a car, okay, as a car manufacturer, we will source out the parts of the cars that we need to produce. Okay? So hanap tayo sino ang magiging supplier natin for the tires, for the infotainment system, okay, yung suspension system natin, okay. So we source out those parts and we build them in an assembly line, okay, and then once we have completed the car, we bring it to the dealership na. Okay, that's our supply chain. Okay, but with the value chain, okay, isipin natin si customer. Okay, as a customer, ano ba yung hahanapin niya sa car? Ano yung hanapin niya sa kotse? Okay. Kung dati, the purpose of having a vehicle is to transport us from one point to another. Okay? Pero ngayon, iba na yung perception ni customer with having a car. Siyempre, let's say, aside from the faster travel, di ba? We bring in style, we bring in comfort. So we will assess what the customer wants. Okay? So yung value chain natin, we will consider yung after sales. Okay? We will consider yung safety, concerns ni customer, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star NCAP rating ba yung car natin, okay? How many airbags can we place in, okay? Comfort, let's say yung ISOFIX, okay? Can we have an ISOFIX deployment para din sa mga car seat ng mga bata, right? Okay. So when we look at value chain, okay, we start with the customer value. Okay. So ayun na, for the workflow, okay, the supply chain starts at our raw materials, our raw resources. But for the value chain, we start with what the customer wants. Okay, what the customer values more. Yeah. Okay. And let's say the second perspective that we want to see between supply chain and value chain is the process. So for the supply chain, it mainly consists of operational processes which focus on the efficiency of the logistics and production. But in terms of the value chain, okay, value chains are business management processes that involves market research and product innovation activities. So going back to our car manufacturing situation earlier. Okay. So if we are looking at the supply chain, how are we going to make it more efficient? Okay. So ano yung i-incorporate natin operational processes during the manufacturing para we bring down the cost, mas malaki yung revenue natin. Okay. So one, pwede tayong mag-incorporate sa assembly line natin ng instead of skilled workers, meron na tayong we deploy automations now, we deploy robotics, right? Less errors, ano siya. So mas efficient na yung production natin. So we can also have massive production kapag nakapag-deploy na tayo ng automation and robotics. Okay? So in terms of the value chain naman, we will the processes that we need to do, okay, would be how we could consider the market demand. Okay? Ano gagawin natin to get the sentiments ng customers natin? Okay? So let's do market research. Ano yung what do our passengers want right now? Okay? So ngayon I think parang 5 years ago, di ba, nagsulputan na yung mga 7-seaters na kotse. Yan. So kasi mas malaki na yung family ng Pinoy. Kailangan mas kasya na lahat. Hindi na pwede sa sedan na 5-seaters lang. So ngayon, di ba, they bring in the 7-seaters and they ang naging movement na is from 7-seaters, ano na siya, 7-seater na SUV. Ganun siya. Pero hindi siya yung mid-size SUV. Parang mas malaki pa rin kasi yung mid-size SUV. Alright. And then, what else? We also look for government regulations. Okay. Ang Philippine government, they have we already have the EVIDA law. Yeah. So to encourage the dealership to bring in more environment friendly cars, mga hybrid or mga full na EVs, okay, in a way to bring down the carbon emissions. Kasi ang perception din ng mga tao, okay, we are now on kumbaga drastic times na masyado nating nararamdaman yung climate change and we need to act now. Okay? And then the people agree na, oh, yep, we need to use more renewable resources. Okay? We need to bring down our carbon emissions. Okay? So, yun yung titingnan natin sa value chain natin. Ano na ba yung current demand? Okay? And then those insights, yun yung ilalagay natin sa supply chain natin. So we have the supply chain, we have the logistics, we are checking out our resources, then but ang sabi ng market, we need to have a more environment friendly cars. Okay? So magti-tweak tayo. I-tweak natin yung supply chain natin. Oh, all right. Instead of gas engine or yung diesel engine, yan. So incorporate na natin yung mga ISGs para we can provide a mild hybrid option. Then kung if we want to go on a full EV mode, okay, let's source out naman yung electric motor na mismo. Okay? So that's the second perspective we want to see, okay, on the process. Supply chain, operational processes siya, but for the value chain, those are business management processes naman. Okay? And the last perspective that we will be seeing through would be the driver nitong chains. Okay, the driver for the supply chain is the business. The driver for the value chain is the customer. Okay, ibig sabihin, for the supply chain, sino yung nag-manage ng buong supply chain? It's the business. Okay, from the sourcing, production, to distribution or delivery, it's the business. But for the value chain, okay, ang magbibigay ng demand, okay, ang magdadrive ng demand is yung customer. Alright? So, I hope we have a clear grasp between supply chain and value chain. Okay. What is the value chain naman for the Open Run? So, before we go on with that, okay, alam natin that Open Run or the run that we have, okay, started from a traditional network with a single proprietary vendor for our radio access network. Okay. Actually, when I was still part of the telco, hanggang core network, single vendor. Yan. Okay. Ibig sabihin, ano yung setup namin before? Si Vismin, yan, si Vismin. Lahat ng cell sites namin, ano siya, they run on Ericsson. Okay. Hanggang doon sa core side, sa switches, si Ericsson pa rin. Okay. Then on sa Luzon and NCR, we are tawag nito, we have Huawei naman for our network and the core. Okay. And then we syempre meron ding integration between the two para syempre yung communications natin from Vismin to Luzon and vice versa will pass through. Okay. So that is the traditional network. We are locked in for the technology nung run natin. And then there is a centralized network or the C-RAN, okay, where yung baseband unit is separated na. Okay, it's housed or located in a central office, and it's being used also to drive those or radio units. Okay, so we have a pool of the BBUs in a central office. Okay? That's why it's called the centralized network. And as the technology grows, okay, sila XRAN, they started, why don't we move it to the cloud? So they implemented the BBU in the central office in a cloud platform. Okay? But still, this is running in a proprietary uh, software for the vRAN network. Okay, and as we learned earlier, di ba? The operand is a movement. So we open those uh, hardwares. Hardwares will be commercial off the shelf. Okay, we open those softwares. Uh, they are now open source softwares. We open also the interfaces para those different vendors of hardware and softwares, okay, they can communicate with each other. Okay, so that is the Open RAN. It opens the network. It disaggregates the components of the network. Okay, so from being a single vendor, okay, we as an operator, okay, we do now have an option to have a multi-vendor setup. Okay. Again, before I continue, ano muna tayo? Quick check. Who are the 5 big RAN vendors? Yan. Who are the 5 big RAN vendors that was discussed sa atin earlier? Yan, okay. Huawei, Nokia, Ericsson, CPD, and Samsung. All right. Ayan. All right. Thank you for the questions. And then, it's good to know, di ba, that we are taking the notes dun sa mga lessons or sa mga sessions na we have run through. Okay. So Open RAN presented new opportunities for the for new players then, diba, to participate and bring in more supply and solutions. Okay. Okay. So in Open RAN value chain, okay, it is the customer driving the value. Okay? And sino yung customer doon? Diba? When we have the value chain, meron tayong business side, okay? And meron tayong customer side. Okay? So kailangan meron lang tayong ma-set lang natin yung perspective natin. Okay? Sino yung customer, sino yung business. All right. The customer, hindi siya yung hindi siya yung subscriber. Okay? So si subscriber kasi, tayo as a user ng service, hindi naman visible sa atin na si telco open RAN yung gamit niya, ganun. Hindi visible sa atin yan. Basta we are connected, we can do the service, we can avail those services. Hindi na tayo, wala na tayong concern as a subscriber ano yung technology behind na ginagamit ng operators. Okay? So in the Open RAN value chain, ang customer, the driver is the operator. Okay? And the business will be the vendors. All right? The business will be the vendors. So from a study pioneered by Analysis Mason, okay, they forecasted that there is a $45 billion of revenue that can be generated by Open RAN by the year 2026. Okay, as we say nga, Open RAN it disaggregates the network or the RAN from the radio unit. Okay, and then we have a distributed unit. And then we have the CUs running on cloud. Okay? And then we have the RAN softwares, the RIC, and the Mano. Okay? So na-disaggregate nila yung ito yung disaggregated architecture, and us being the operators, okay? So you wear your hats as an operator and as an economist, right? Mga economist muna tayo ngayon, all right? So let's look on this illustration for the radio unit. Okay? For the radio unit, ano yung mga components ng radio unit which we can have value on as an operator. Okay? As an operator for a radio unit, mag-implement kami ng 5G. We want massive MIMOs antennas. Okay? We now be using active radios. Okay? So the study conducted by Analysis Maven, they map up those requirements, those values. So for the radio unit, yes, we need radio chips for it. So it's part of the semiconductors. We need small cells implementation. So hardware and software na siya. Okay. For the distributed unit, we will run it in a COTS hardware, commercial off the shelf. So we can instead of relying on a single vendor na ito yung meron silang sariling or hardware for it, we can now buy from the most common hardware providers. So we look out for GPPs, the general purpose processors, accelerators, and servers. Okay. For the cloud, let's source out who can provide us the cloud software, okay? The hypervisor OS. Okay? For the run softwares, which software development companies can give us a more efficient codes on running our network functions. For the RIC, software development companies din yan who can provide us with AIs and machine learning algorithms. Okay? Also for the MANO, the management and orchestration, okay? On how we can deploy our VMs, our functions, and integrate it also with our network monitoring systems. So the Open Run, it disaggregated the network, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for different players na. Okay? Kung titingnan natin before, itong run natin would only be played by the big 5 dominant players. Okay? But now, since disaggregate siya, we can look into different stakeholders or categories in terms of services, semiconductors, hardware, software, cloud platforms, and development. Okay, so that is the Open Run value chain. Okay, let's start off with the services. Okay, services, it plays a very significant role in Open Run value chain to test and integrate multiple vendor solutions. So ito nga yung na-discuss sa atin din kanina, that one of the big challenge in Open Run is the integration. Since we are looking out for different vendors, different hardwares, different softwares, okay? How are we sure, okay, na yung kayang i-provide ni single vendor previously sa traditional run, okay, we can match it up or provide a higher value pa when we are deploying an Open Run environment. Okay, so many operators will be deploying Open Run with elements from many suppliers, but they may lack the resources to integrate them. Kaya, in terms of services, ayan, ito yung key roles or service that we could provide naman. Okay? Systems integration, a lot of testings, okay? And managed service enterprises. Actually, isa ding nakikita ko dito for Open Run, okay? It also provides an avenue then for the software security companies then. Okay? Since we are opening the network, okay? Mas maraming points for intrusions, mas maraming we should also ramp up or beef up our security operations. Okay, so let's see some of the players for that could bring in more these services. Okay, we have NEC, Amdocs, Rakuten, Parallel Wireless, Entity Data, IBM, Capgemini, Tech Mahindra, Infosys, and Accenture. Okay. I am not tawag ito, disclaimer lang din. Okay. So hindi ito lahat. Okay. These are just some of the players. Okay. And in no particular order. And wala rin silang sponsorship. Okay, pero baka naman. Ayan. Okay. Anyways, ayan. So these are if you want to grow on your careers then in terms of the systems integration, you can look into these companies, right? Yeah. And let's go to the hardware part. It's 24% bring sharing the revenue. Okay, so since interoperability comes into play, it brings more vendors available to the operator. Okay? For the distributed units, small cells, radio units, and massive MIMO antennas. Okay? With 5G, we are leveraging the sub 6 gigahertz and the millimeter wave frequencies. Okay? Mas malaki yung magiging demand natin to have massive MIMO antennas for our implementation. So with Open Run, okay, nag-open up siya ng avenues for the SMEs, small medium enterprises, to be players then on that field to provide us with the antennas that we need. Okay? So who are these vendors? Tingnan natin sila, no? For the antennas, okay? There are Bicels, Comscope, Arrays, Fujitsu that could bring in the MIMO antennas that we are looking for. Okay, and for the hardware naman ng ating distributed units, okay, we can look out for Dell, HP, Supermicro, IBM, yung the vendors who already are providing commercial off-the-shelf servers. Okay, so kumbaga hindi na tayo hirap maghanap or hindi tayo locked in for a specific vendor. Kunwari, si Ericsson or si Huawei, okay? Ito yung setup namin for your BBU. Okay? Hindi naka panel boards yung deployment niya. Okay? Ay, hindi ko ma-integrate yan kasi ganito yung setup ng rack ko, ganito yung it uses 2U or 4U racks, kaya hindi siya yung panel type. Okay? So with the Open Run, okay, mas marami tayong choices that can provide us with the server or the edge servers that we need. Okay? And also for the small cells, small cell players, if we need to have a simple lab that we can have, or let's say if we want to have coverage on a specific room or specific location lang, that we deploy a small cell onto it. If we have airspan, Benetel, Mavineers for it. Okay. Meron na silang mga small cell setups that we can integrate with our network. Right? Okay. For the third biggest revenue contributor at 18% is the cloud hosting. Okay? Since the BBU has been disaggregated and can now be run on COTS hardware, the network functions can be hosted to a cloud environment and properly utilize the underlying hardware. Okay? Ano yung benefit of having a cloud? So having a virtualized environment, it provides quick provisioning. If you have attended one of the sessions that we had, I think that was with Rakuten, they shared that yung upgrade na ginawa nila from 4G to 5G, it took only them, I think, around 15 to 30 minutes, di ba? Nakapag-upgrade ka na ng cell site. So, ganun, kabilis yung pag-provision mo ng network, di ba? And with cloud, you have a very agile deployment, you have high availability, ang bilis natin mag-spin up ng resources, and also yung load balancing niya and the way we conduct a disaster recovery sa cloud. And ano lang siya, it's just a matter of push button lang. One click, ilipat ko yung services ko sa isang data center. Naka-house yung DR ko sa kabilang site. Ganun. So ang bilis ng recovery in terms of let's say merong mga disasters, sunog or what, mabilis mag-recover ng service. And also, one of the biggest factor on running a cloud is efficient yung power consumption natin. Okay? Before, okay, kapag tayo ay mag-commission ng service or ng components natin, okay, we take into account yung ano yung magiging traffic nito for up to 5 years. Okay, kailangan forecasted mo siya kasi if you are going to have network deployment tapos ang i-gauge mo lang na throughput nito is it's only good for 100 people. Yeah. Okay, and then you commissioned it to run on that kind of throughput. Tapos hindi mo na forecast yung magiging movement ng tao, yung users, yung kind of services that they'll be using from 3 to 5 years na. Okay? Yung ininvest natin sa CapEx, okay, for this time, for the present time, hindi na siya it could not serve the traffic that should be on the future time. Okay? So ang problem din naman, okay, if we forecast ito yung magiging traffic niya siguro for this tawag nito, for this number of years. Okay? Ang isang drawback din naman yun is magkakaroon tayo ng over-provisioning. Okay? So, ang laki ng pinasok ko na infrastructure pero hindi naman pala fully utilized. So, sayang din. Okay? So, with the cloud, you can provision the resource the way you need it or depende sa demand. So, let's say for this site, okay, tumataas yung traffic ko, and okay, I can from the mano it will see na yung utilization ko for this site is growing bigger. Okay, I can spin up more VMs or I can increase yung resources ng VM ko for those for the VM running those sites. Ganun siya. Okay? So, efficient yung paggamit ko ng power. And also, the cloud supports sustainability. Okay? As we say nga, actually, I think the European Union, sa kanila meron na silang it's an app for the companies to bring down their carbon emissions. Okay? And ang laking tulong ng cloud, especially for those running in public cloud environment. Kasi for those running on public clouds, they have their data centers na running on renewables. Okay? So in terms of sustainability and bringing down the carbon emissions, okay, cloud platforms really is a big help. Okay? So thus, it lowers the overall CapEx and OpEx for the operator naman din. Okay? So in terms of cloud, ayan, if we want to have an on-premise deployment, ibig sabihin, tayong operators yung mag-run ng cloud natin, it's okay. We can source out the service that we need, okay, from the common vendors in the market. Okay? And then we can also avail yung mga hypervisor OSs. Okay? We have here VMware, Oracle Cloud, and Red Hat. Also, we as an operator, we also have an option to run it on a public cloud. Okay? So on public cloud, we have AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud din naman. Okay? Actually, si Alibaba meron na rin. May cloud na rin si Alibaba. Okay? Ang isang challenge lang when we run our resources on a public cloud. A public cloud kasi is sabi nga nila, when you have a public cloud, you have a server parang anywhere in the world, parang gano'n. But actually, they have regions, they operate in regions, they have data centers nakahalat, situated globally. Okay? But make it a point, or we should be careful na dapat yung public cloud na nag-host sa akin, alam ko na meron silang data center na yung data ko is nasa Philippines lang. Okay? So I should be wary about the data sovereignty. Actually, yun yung naging din, 'di ba, naging concern for Huawei kasi kaya hindi rin sila naging part, I guess, of the not 5G but the Open RAN. Okay, they want to retain their technology within them. Okay, and yung naging concern naman din ni Canada with Huawei, ang sinasabi ni Canada, no, yung mga data namin is ano siya, tawag nito na parang na i-snip or in a way parang napapadala sa China. Yun ang claim ni Canada. Okay? So when we have a public cloud, hindi rin natin alam kung nasaan yung data ko. Okay? So although these clouds are running in global setting and meron silang mga regional offices or regional data centers, okay? Hindi rin naman lahat ng countries meron silang mismo nag-ooperate na di ba? Na data center on it. So ang isang challenge lang when we want to run in a public cloud is how can they secure na yung data natin is within our territories lang. Okay? But ang advantage din naman if we run our services or our functions in a public cloud, okay, wala ka nang iisiping hardware. Hindi mo na iisipin yung data center mo. Wala ka nang i-operate na gano'n. Kasi all those stuff, okay, it is managed na nung public cloud natin. Alright? Okay. So, fourthly, okay, the semiconductors. It shares 11% revenue. Okay. As there will be a demand for the general purpose processors to support higher layer RAN functions, accelerator chips for high demand workloads, and other specialized chipsets and metal castings or foundries that is needed for the radio unit. So this encourages more semiconductor companies to participate. Right? Okay, so these are some of the players or the vendors that we could source out to if we need chips or foundries. Okay, Intel, Samsung, Nvidia, Marvell, Broadcom, Qualcomm, Xilinx, AMD. Okay, so why do we need these chips din naman? Okay, so when we think of the 5G use cases, okay, and we think of the 5G use cases, there are use case na kailangan natin ng more or computing power. Okay, anong mga 5G use cases yon? Can anyone share their thoughts? Ano yung 5G use cases that could need more computing power? Yan, di ba? May ano tayo, multi-massive IoTs na. Okay? Mas marami tayong isa-support na IoT devices. Okay? It will provide more data streams to process. Okay? Especially kung mag-deploy din tayo ng mga machine learning algorithms natin for the RIP. Okay? You will be needing a lot of computing power. Okay? Of course, if we kung merong operator sa atin na magpo-provide ng augmented reality, okay? Augmented reality is also a 5G use case. Okay? What else? The V2V, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, or V2X. Okay? So those are the kind of 5G use cases that will really be needing more specialized chips or accelerated processing. Okay. So that would be the end of my sharing session with you. Okay, the infrastructure with the Open RAN value chain. Okay. So thank you for the time.
So after the presentation, we would like to answer some specific questions, right? So how much do you think is the open run market worth now in 2026, 3 years moving forward? What would be the key components of the open run ecosystem? Which are the key emerging and vendors in each segment or each category that we're going to discuss? Which players are having the greatest influence over the ecosystem? And of course, to much ever-growing, maturing market. So I hope in our presentation today, we have strategists or technology officers, procurement leaders, and maybe network planners, maybe from the major carriers who should be interested in this presentation, because we're talking about value chain, right? So value chain involves more of all the system integrators and suppliers of the whole ecosystem. So this would be really interesting to leaders of the open networking industry, the alliances that are being formed, and really very important for investor and venture capitalists so that they will know where to put their money, right? So that's the real sense of this presentation today. So as a summary of my discussion, I don't have so much slide, just like the previous speakers. I would rather have a smaller slide with few words in it. But I cannot really claim that I'm a subject matter expert because I come from the enterprise systems or solutions of the industry and not part of the wider telecom industry. So it was discussed that for the value chain categories, especially when Mr. Palaga was discussing it, it's about semiconductors, hardware, software, services, cloud platforms, and other developments. So he also mentioned that as a source of our presentation today, we really had an opportunity to study the analysis or the taxonomy made by Analysis Mason. In the previous presenter, he also discussed the percentages of the market in 2026-2025 for all the 7 or 6 categories, I mean. So 38% for the system integration, that would be services. 11% would go to chips and components. 18% would go to cloud. And 24% would go to RAN hardware. And 9% will go to the RAN software. So what I'm about to discuss today is about mostly on software. For the 6th category for development, we really don't have yet any valuable data on how much money spent will be done in the next coming years. So to give you an overview of what the real actual monetary value of each 6 categories in terms of dollar figures. As you can see, number 1 or top of the list would be software. That would be about 5 billion US dollars, right? And it will be followed by the semiconductor category, which is 5.1 billion. And then the cloud platform, which is 7.2 billion. And then it goes on. So as you go to the services, it really adds up to the chunk of the pie, which will be about 16.6 billion. So let me ask you again, Sir Richard, when you say $5 billion, how many physical assets do you think you can buy with $5 billion? Maybe luxury cars compared to luxury cars. How many luxury cars?
A lot, no? So probably thousands of luxury cars.
Very good. Maybe someone can look it out. The most number of collection of luxury cars belongs to the Sultan of Brunei. So that's about 7,000 luxury cars. So can you imagine that amount and that physical asset which is attributed to $5 billion? So it's a lot, right?
Mhm.
So people would really, put all of their heads together and, you know, provide a solution for software so that they can really capture this $5 billion market in the future. So it's just an analogy how you would have conceptualized the amount of money that's going to be spent for the next 3 years if we have a successful Open RAN revolution. As you can see, the dominant players, I would rather mention their names, right, than make it, as anonymous. But normally the players are the big five. It would be Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia, Samsung, and ZTE. And because of that, what normally happens is we're not driving costs to the optimum level, right? Because if you are a dominant player, what do? You normally tend to up your profits because you are a proprietary technology and no one can really penetrate the market without your equipment or software. But now, as of 2022, I think the number of uh, open vendors that are willing to be partner with the Open RAN ecosystem are now about 215. I think the one mentioned by Dr. Wong is 280 right now in 20. This is an old figure, 2022. So it has risen to 280 active vendors for the Open RAN ecosystem. So what will happen because we will have this new open system? So innovation will drive everything, right? Because of these vendors, we will have a wide range of innovation, solutions for an increasingly diverse set of use cases, solutions with a wide range of price points and form factors for different applications, new industrial transformations, and a robust supply chain for trusted vendors. So that will really change the market landscape from being a 5-player vendor to maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, more than 300 new vendors or players in this field of mobile communication. Okay, and my discussion would be focused on the software category. So as you can see, the value chain categories are defined, but they were also already discussed in the previous presentation of the two good speakers. And this is just a review at what they have discussed previously. So Mr. or Engineer Paga, I think, also showed this taxonomy. This is the Open RAN architecture itself. And he already discussed most of it. But the softwares that are being developed for those three elements in the Open RAN architecture, which I have encircled, are mostly the software developed by future third-party players in this field. So that would be the RIC X apps, that's your RAN intelligent controller, your RAN software, which are normally done to network functions, which are also software driven, and of course the cloud. So I hope I can just wrap up with the discussion on the software because most of the categories are already discussed by the previous presenters. So what are RIC? So as previously mentioned by Dr. Wong, so RIC stands for RAN Intelligent Controllers, right? And this RAN Intelligent Controllers is responsible for optimizing the RAN functions, and it uses artificial intelligence and machine learning. As a software hosting platform, the applications developed are done by third-party specialists. They are known as X apps and R apps. So these applications normally provide second decisions, right? So they do optimize the network through real time and non-real time. So they can identify which part of the hardware will be allocated in a real-time setting for example, a given sensor in the whole ecosystem. So these are now being developed by other players aside from the 5 major players that we have previously discussed. The next one is the RAN software. So the RAN software now are normally virtualized, right? The software are called virtualized and containerized network functions. This includes new platforms for automation, management, and orchestration of the RAN elements. So in order to visualize this, how we evolved from the traditional function, right? Before, the approach was to do a traditional RAN. So everything is supplied by the vendor. So it's a network appliance approach, and it's a captured market by a single vendor, right? Because they supply everything from the hardware up to the software. But with the advent of virtualization and cloud, we have the option now of having a virtualized network, and our VNFs would be running on virtual appliances, right? So typical example of virtual appliances are VMware platforms, right? And as mentioned previously by Engineer Paga, I think Red Hat is also in the game. And for cloud native container functions, we have the cloud, and this could be the private cloud and the public cloud. So now we can really have other what we call orchestrators in the cloud, such as AWS and HP. This can be both private and public cloud. And as discussed in this category, everything now can be virtualized, especially when it comes to central units and in the future distributed units. So to give you an overview of what will happen in the future, what we presented in the last slide, I think, or slide number 3, we only have what, 5 dominant players before, right? But now with the advent of Open RAN, the open architecture promises so many players. And as you can see from the list, those players are not traditional players, right? You can even see Rakuten, right? We can also see that NTT will be there in the future. We also have other unknown players like Parallel Wireless, and even those traditional desktop and software providers will be interested, like Dell, the public cloud, AWS, and maybe Azure of Microsoft will also be interested in the future. And as you can take note here, Cisco is also in the playing field. So what it will bring to us is really a level playing field. And you know, if there's a level playing field, everything from a customer perspective, everything or the cost of buying those services will also come down, because all of these players will have to compete with each other. And normally, when you compete with each other, normally we compete in the price level, right? So if you have a good optimal price and your services are good, so telco operators would rather go with you as long as your technology is mature enough and has been proven in the market. So in summary, as I promised earlier, I do not want to bore you. I would have a very brief presentation. So number one, in summary of what we have discussed and the discussion of the other presenters, the development of the Open RAN has the potential to disrupt the RAN market. Why? Because it allows new vendors to compete alongside 5 dominant players of the closed RAN market. So as you can see, Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia, ZTE would no longer be the dominant players, hopefully, in the next 3 years. The list that I presented you a while ago of the 28 promising vendors for Open RAN does not even include Chinese suppliers, right? But according to Dr. Wong, ZTE already embraces the Open RAN Alliance. So we will just have to wait for Huawei. They will also be part of the Open RAN Alliance. The next item that we have covered is, of course, the 6 categories, or what Allison Mason calls it as a taxonomy of the value chain. And as we have said, semiconductors, software, hardware, cloud services, and development would be those 6 categories that would be really important for us to monitor and for vendors to compete on. Vendors for number 3, vendors that want to enter this market needs to establish partnership and channels and become active in the Open RAN trials at an early stage to be successful. So the earlier you join the Open RAN Alliance, right, you can be assured that if you are doing any software or hardware development, you can really, align yourselves with all those vendors and operators to test your product. And that's the most important thing, because in achieving that, if you will join those trials, your product would be fully tested and would be fully certified. And those dominant players right now in this field are Rakuten, which is a greenfield deployment. Other leaders would be Dell, Intel, and NEC. So before I end the session, so this is our brief summary. I just would like to bring you back, since I think you already gauge my gauge my age by now, that I belong to the Generation X. I have seen it all, right? I would like to compare the Open RAN revolution to the IT infrastructure evolution. During my time, when we are using computers, most computers that were available are not desktops, right? When we were starting our primary years in college, in order to gain or maybe run your program, you need to access a dumb terminal which is connected to your mainframe and mini computers. And then that's the time you can only have access to computer, because everything was centralized, right? And then in the early 80s, there was a boom of the personal computer, right? And when that happened, the personal computer revisionalized everything, right? Because every personal computer does not belong now to IBM. Remember, also in the mainframe, everything was supplied by IBM, even the software. So they are the dominant player. And when they lost the dominance in the personal computer side, because everybody was already producing, because it's an open architecture. You have Dell, you have HP, you have software for Windows. Everything was open to everybody, and it really drove the cost down. Everybody was owning a PC, and then our desktop can connect to any server when the internet revolution happened. So cloud computing, the future would be in mobile, right? So you are very lucky if you're millennials and Generation X now, that the future is with you. Cloud computing will be around for us in maybe in the next decade, and Open RAN revolution should be supported by you guys, because if you support Open RAN, we will be doing much service to our country, and it would be a good thing for everybody to have access to a network that is really fast enough and be able to guarantee the speed that we will require. Thank you so much. So, Sir Richard, that ends my presentation. I told you it would be brief, and I hope everybody learns from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Noel. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so for today's summary, so we have learned as we come to end our webinar on Open RAN value chain. So let's recap the key takeaways from our discussion on its components. So we have identified 6 major value chain players in the Open RAN ecosystem. So first, we have this services. Okay, so Open RAN services will include this deployment, maintenance, and optimization services. And the availability of these services from multiple vendors ensures competition and flexibility in the Open RAN ecosystem. Second is the RAN software, as discussed by Sir Noel. Open RAN software components enable network operators to mix and match, okay, from different vendors to build and manage their networks. And then Open RAN software provides a flexible and cost-effective solution for network operators. Next is the RAN hardware, where Open RAN components consist of the radio units, baseband units, and the other components used to build mobile networks. And Open RAN hardware enables the operators to build networks using components from different vendors. Of course, there are chipsets and components in which the Open RAN providers offer a wide range of hardware components from mobile networks. So with Open RAN, operators have the flexibility to choose components from different vendors, which promotes competition and innovation. And then there's the cloud. Cloud-based components allow for increased agility, scalability, and cost savings. And the cloud enables virtualization of the network functions and allows for easier network management. And lastly is the development, which includes the development of software, hardware, and network components. And this enables vendors to develop new components and solutions for mobile networks. So these are the key takeaways demonstrated in today's session. And by using the Open RAN technology, network operators can build and manage their networks using components from different vendors and promoting competition and innovation in the telecom industry. Now let's take a look at one good example that we have encountered in one of our discussions with the people in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So this is an application of Open Care 5G use case. So if you were able to join us last time in one of the PAL sessions, so we showed this slide before. So the digital health uses information and communication technology, or the ICT resources, to produce and provide and make available reliable information about the health conditions of the patients. So in the Philippines, we're also doing this. We call it the RX box. So it was demonstrated last time or presented last time by Dr. Marcelo. And digital health incorporates recent advances in health innovation technology by implementing the hardware, the software, IoT devices, big data, and artificial intelligence to concentrate the high volumes of information and database applications and networks. So there is a case that was used. It was coordinated by Deloitte with the participation of the Escola Politecnica, the USP, or the School of Engineering, University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And it's a combination of Airspan, okay, Airspan, Itaú Bank with Cisco and Dell and HP equipment, and using the infrastructure of its data center. It's located in Ipiranga neighborhood. It's 9 kilometers from the university, with the land-to-land fiber optic connection provided by the local telecom company. So Siemens Health Engineers, NEC, Telecom Infra Project, ABDI, or the Brazilian Agency for Industrial Development, and IDB, or the Inter-American Development Bank, were included. And they have used the Open RAN technology in public health and concluded to be extreme social, economic, and fundamental importance of this trial and for the citizens and development of health research to promote great positive impacts, ranging from attracting investments in the country to improving the quality of the patient's care. So they call this project as the Open RAN, Open Care 5G use case. So this is just a private network, so for digital health application used in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So there is this Innova HC, the technological innovation core of the clinics hospital of the Faculty of Medicine of the University of Sao Paulo. So this is the first national medical institution to seek new opportunities offered by 5G technology and test its application in the first private network for digital health in the largest hospital complex in Latin America through the Open Care 5G project. If you can see the architecture of this system and check the different collaborations of the leading actors in their segments, you can visualize also how the Open RAN ecosystem works when you're building this new approach in the system development of Open RAN. So it includes, like, for example, NEC, okay, NEC, for the system integration, management of network users. And Deloitte is the project management and for the business model creation. Telecom Infra Project, one of the influential entity in the development of Open RAN system. So they are responsible for the system architecture, blueprint, and adherence to the Open RAN specifications. And then they also have this Siemens Health Engineers, which includes the medical solutions like the test equipments, okay, so that is connected to the network. And in terms of the radio access hardware and software, they use the Airspan, okay, radio access and Open RAN solution. And there is this ABDI, BR Ministry of Economy, so for the regulatory and advocacy support, which is supporting to education and technology promotion. The ABD, Brazilian Agency for Industrial Development. The Innova HC, Hospital Clínicas, so for the research, promotion of innovation in healthcare. And of course, the Polytechnic School at the University of Sao Paulo. So this includes the technology scaling and then the research methodology. And one of the interesting thing in this use case is the involvement of banks. Okay, so here the Itaú Bank provides the IT infrastructures. Okay, the 5G, they serve as the 5G core network. Okay, so most of the data centers that been used and databases were part of the Itaú Bank. Okay, so this becomes this project has become a catalyst for the innovation in health and connecting the resources and entrepreneurs to generate solutions for the innovation ecosystem of the organizations. Okay, so that concludes our session for today. And now we'll move on to the question and answer. Okay, so thank you for that insightful presentations. And we will now proceed with this Q&A portion of the webinar. So if you have some questions, we have a lot of time. Please feel free to submit your questions through the Q&A box, and we will address them as best as we can. May we call in Engineer Paga and Sir Noel? Let me just check the questions here. Eto, from Leslie Tuba, how can we implement an ORAN system if majority of hardwares are Huawei and which is not part of the ORAN system?
That's a difficult question because Huawei is not part of the Open RAN Alliance, right? So what we can do is maybe ask Huawei in the future what their plans are. If they are going to, embrace the Open RAN Alliance, then it would not be a problem to integrate their equipment. But so far, right now, we cannot really answer that question because, as you can see, Huawei is a proprietary supplier of equipment, and they only support their system.
Okay, thank you, Sir Noel. This one, what are the benefits of virtual RAN 5G architecture than the hardware-based RAN? From Maynard Pardilla.
As you can see, virtualized platforms are this was mentioned by Engineer Paga, right? I think you can configure efficiency even in electricity, right? You can allocate the CPU utilization if it's needed, right? So what happens if you have a platform like that? It doesn't have to generate much heat, for example, in the processors and everything. So that's one example. But in terms of computing, virtual machines are really very powerful now, right? Compared to classical servers and network appliance. So you will have the benefit of that. And it is much cheaper to have a virtualized network, right? Because it is managed by a different data center normally, right? But if you offer a private cloud, maybe you can also have it in your data center, but at least the software and the are much cheaper for a virtualized network.
Okay, thank you, Sir Noel. Yeah, question from Carlos Saul Perez. I think it's a general question. Why you do not create a group also in LinkedIn? Okay, after it's in the pipeline also, Carlo. So maybe in the future we'll have this group in LinkedIn. So we'll just have to get this approval before we do that or the creation of the group in the LinkedIn. Coming from Manuel Uy, when would ORAN, do you think, be fully implemented in our country?
That's an answer that we need to ask the telcos, right? I think Dr. Wong specifically mentioned that, right? We do not have the plans of the telco operators when they are going to embrace Open RAN. But hopefully, because of the cost effectiveness of this architecture, they will be able to see the benefit of it. So to answer your question, it might be in the near future, as the projections are normally in 3 years' time, everybody will be embracing the technology.
Mm-hmm. And last 2 weeks ago, as mentioned, Smart released their results of the proof of concept of Open RAN. Okay,
yeah. I saw that, yeah. And it's interesting that you presented this open 5G in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm also connected with one of the biggest healthcare provider in the United States. It's United Healthcare. We're actually top 5 in the 500 Fortune companies. So now you can get rid of Cisco, right? If you would embrace this technology in your clinics, in your hospitals, if this open RAN technology would fly, that would be the future, because Airspan is not normally a big player in the enterprise industry, right? So if they can do that, then it would be really a level playing field.
Okay. Question coming from, hold on, I'll just, since one of the big challenges is the overall security, would this Open RAN already made some big steps in addressing this concern?
I think this was answered already by Dr. Wong, right? With regards to security. For example, when we use the public cloud now, right? They also have their appliances to check on it. And if you will connect to their systems, you also have your network security in place, right? So it's not going to be fair to say that if you will embrace Open RAN, it will not be secured, especially when you do the pilot testing, right? They will really look for any threats. They will also test it. So it would not be a problem in the future, I suppose. As you can see, even Juniper Networks, the one of the biggest security appliances, are also in the Open RAN Alliance. So everybody will test it, I think.
Okay.
And I think the work group 11 is on top of it. They are creating provisions or let's say specifications on those security measures that is needed to be implemented to secure the segregated network.
Okay. Next question is, how can the government or DICT or NTC create policy to help support this initiative?
I'm not from the government sector, so I'm not really sure. Maybe our ISEP counterpart, who is co-hosting with us, can answer that. Maybe they have some, news from the ICT.
Or maybe from the NTC part, like for example, if someone wants to do a testing, so they could something like allocate the certain frequency for the testing, specifically if most of the frequencies right now are owned by major telcos. And then, so if there's another entity that would like to do some testing, some radio testing, like for example for the RAN testing, so and then they need a certain frequency for the implementation, maybe that's a way NTC could also support.
Yep. And in the past, they also are the ones qualifying if your equipment is type approved, right? But I'm not sure now what's their policy on the equipment. You can only deploy equipment, for example, radio networks, if it's already type approved, a brand or something.
Yep. And then there's a comment from Gerard Tan. I highly recommend in the next topics, let's invite the ICT and NTC as spectrum is critical in Open RAN.
Okay. I fully agree. So we will have to invite them. So it will be up to Sir Richard and, to coordinate that.
And from Sir JM, he mentioned that the government supported Common Tower Initiative and it will not be long for Open RAN. Okay, so last time when there was a Common Tower Initiative implemented here in the Philippines. So as mentioned by JM, it could happen also in Open RAN.
Or maybe President Biden could put pressure on the Philippine government, right? Because this is his initiative, right?
And speaking of the common tower, I think it will also give another source of revenue. I think there are players who will be hosting the common towers. And in turn, they can, kumbaga sila na yung pwedeng mag-host na ng ano ng cloud service
Mhm.
for the operators. So another source of revenue then.
Yeah, maybe it can be done by the ICT, right? Common platform, right? For virtualized networks. Maybe put up their own cloud. I think it depends on how they will support the industry.
Yep. Okay, question coming from Froilan. I think this one is an interesting question, especially for all the engineers joining us. What technical skills current engineers in the telco industry should acquire in order for us to be still relevant in the coming Open RAN movement? Like, for example, DevOps or cloud, etc. So let's hear it from Sir JP first.
Yeah, as you've said, no, nandun na yung example given, the DevOps, cloud, what else? The orchestrations, and the I think ang isa pang booming ngayon is the AI and the machine learning.
Yep. That would be a critical part, especially in the RAN intelligent controller.
Yes.
And then what technical skills? Where do you find the technical skills needed? You're in the right place. Here in the
You just have to attend Open RAN Alliance Asian Academy, right?
Yeah,
And of course, if you, for your personal improvement, there are a lot of certification in the cloud, right? You can attend the Microsoft certification for AWS. So you will be familiarized with the cloud environment. And as you can see, Red Hat is there, right? Linux is one of the most open,
Yep.
systems there out there.
And also, in addition, let me just get this opportunity also to make everybody aware about the Asia Open RAN courses. So where you can develop your technical skills. If you're currently in the telco or the ICT and you want to explore more of the opportunities. Kanina, when Dr. Ian, Engineer Paul, and Engineer Noel shows the players or in the ecosystem, a lot of opportunities. No, makita ang daming opportunities, especially when they flash the different companies. Next question. Does Open RAN architecture already fix the problem of incompatibility between parts and software that come from different suppliers?
I think yes, right? That's why you created an alliance, right? So there will be pilot and test cases, as mentioned by Richard, right? And those use cases can also be published, right? If it's a successful implementation. So I think no need to worry. The industry will take care of itself. This will happen once the architecture is mature enough.
Yep. And this is also one of the activities driven by TIP, or Telecom Infra Project. So they're conducting what we call the Plug Fest. So in simple terms, the Plug Fest is just like I have an equipment, a hardware, and I have a software. So let's meet together in that Plug Fest, and then let's see if they can interconnect.
Yep. As long as the standards are there, right?
Yeah. From Gerald Diao, will Open RAN consider older generation like 2G, 3G, or is critical to 5G? Because I think some countries still uses older generation.
I'm not sure if it's going to be backward compatible.
There is one vendor like Parallel Wireless. So what they're producing is like, for example, in the radio part, they're producing the all G's radio, so compatible all G radios for the Open RAN. So meaning when when we say 2G, all G, it includes 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. And some of the companies right now are focusing mainly on the LTE and 5G because these are the
The newest.
the newest technology that they want to support.
And I think pwede naman ma-support for the 2G and 3G. However, hindi lang beneficial yung RIC. Kasi walang RIC sa 2G and 3G.
Correct. And remember, this new architecture will have to support the Internet of Things, right? So you would not like to risk, driving a car and then you're using the network and then suddenly cannot decide where to go, right? So normally we will have to embrace the new architecture, new hardware, new software, just to be able to implement IoT.
Okay. Thank you. And the next question coming from Mario Ayaay. In reference to the point of view of the Philippine telco, what benefits they get adopting the ORAN?
So many.
Mhm.
It's really cost effective, right? And then you're not tied up with, a single vendor, as mentioned by Engineer Paga, right? You don't have to be a captured market by Ericsson, right? So if you do that, the cost will really go down. I think that's one of the benefits.
Yeah, in terms then of the when we say kasi excuse me, a vendor lock-in. Yeah, when we say vendor lock-in, all the equipment that we commission, all the softwares that we need will be coming from them, and the support also will be coming from them. Ibig sabihin, if there's a problem with our equipment, who should we go to? To the vendor, yung single vendor kung saan tayo nakalock-in. Kanino tayo kukuha ng maintenance support? Sa kanila din. So, ano tayo, as speaking as operator, diba? Tied up talaga ako on
Yeah.
on that vendor. Ano yung roadmap ng equipment nila? Baka maybe sabihin nila, hindi na namin kayang i-support this function kasi ano na siya, end of life na or end of support na kami dito. Kailangan i-upgrade nyo na for this. So, kumbaga as their customer, I'm tied na, sige, para ma-resolve yung ganitong issue ko, i-upgrade ko na rin sa ganitong pinopropose ng vendor. Kasi naka-tied up na ako sa kanila eh. Yun siya. So, in Open Run, okay, we are free to move. We have many more options. We have many more solutions. Yun actually ang maganda kasi we have a lot of vendors, kahit small players, they can provide solutions for our situations.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sir JP and Sir Noel. Coming from Arnel Valdueza, backwards compatibility will also be an opportunity. Baka mayroong player later na makapag-isip at mag-join to develop a hardware and software to interface traditional RAN to the future ORAN. Isa dyan sa possibility po na naisip ko po, sir. Ano po ang thoughts nyo dito, sir? Pwede po ba to para di masayang yung current infra ng mga providers? Hindi sila mag-massive overhaul ng infra. So parang ano siya, open to proprietary connection.
It's a big possibility that someone can develop that, right?
Yeah, ang challenge lang talaga is integration.
Yep. And as you can see, we have so many system integrators in the Open RAN Alliance, right? So that would really pave the way for those equipment that are proprietary to be used in this new architecture.
Okay. Next question is, what are the possible reservations of market players in joining Oran Alliance? Medyo-
I think that was answered by the first question, right? Compatibility issues, maybe with their existing equipment, right? But as I've said, the standards will be published, and that there will be test beds in the Open Run Alliance. So they should not be afraid, right? They should be part of the Open Run Alliance so that they will know more about the new architecture
Mhm.
if it's going to be beneficial to them.
Okay. Question from R5 in Busan. Can we substitute cloud component of Open Run architecture with localized data center, like in the Itaú Bank data center use case? At
Yeah,
least
that's correct, because that's a private cloud, right? That they employ. So it's in their data center. So they have They have virtualized servers inside their data centers. So you can use that.
Okay.
That's really possible. The only thing is to have, a really good relationship to the one that will provide that platform.
Correct. Okay, question coming from Eduardo M. Castro. Economically, would it be difficult for existing local telcos like Smart, Globe, Dito to embrace Open RAN, since this will mean change out of existing hardwares which were deployed by traditional RAN vendors like Huawei, Nokia, and Ericsson?
It will go into phases, I guess. Because for me, on my experience then before, if you be going into a vendor change out, syempre, hindi yan one time, big time eh. The migrations will took into phases. For sometimes siguro you'll need to check on the coverage on the market. Ito lang muna yung kailangan kong i-migrate or i-transform. Itong phase lang muna. And if this is successful, okay, then unti-unti, let's change our architecture from traditional to into an open run architecture. But I think would it be difficult? Yes, there is a challenge. Meron challenge doon. But it still be kung gagawin man, it will be into phases pa rin.
And then additionally, Sir JP, like for example, for Eduardo, when changing out equipment or system from one vendor to another, just imagine you have a phone right now, no? Meron kang telepono ngayon, and then you want to change your phone. So marami considerations before you change your phone, right? So what are yung mga accounts na naka-load dito sa phone mo? Can you sync it after? Yung mga photos mo nandito ba? Paano mo ma-recover yan? And then ano ba yung mga applications? Like for example, if you're transitioning from I'm just telling this example para makarelate yung mga kasama natin, lalo na kapag wala sila sa telco. Like for example, I'm using an Apple or iOS phone, and then I will try to transfer sa Android. So, ano yung mga apps na gamit ko ngayon sa Apple, sa iPhone ko na hindi ko na magagamit pagdating sa Android? Probably, like for example, meron ako isang app na particular lang sa Apple and then wala siya sa Android. And how can I transfer yung aking mga phone, yung mga aking contacts, no? So, although meron mga software na ganyan, na kapag nag-transfer ka, automatic kinakopy niya, nire-replicate niya. But sometimes you have to consider also yung tedious steps, no, na gagawin mo. And in terms of economics, syempre titingnan mo, no, parehas lang yata ng magiging application sa akin. And then tatawag lang naman ako, mag-SMS lang naman ako. Ano magkakaiba ng pagpapalit ko ng phone kung ito yung mga basic features na kinakailangan ko lang? So there's a lot of considerations na iniisip din ng mga telco. And isa sa mga main consideration, of course, is the subscribers experience. Yan ang pinaka-importante dyan. If you talk to anyone na nasa operator side, they will always tell you that they are doing some upgrade, they are doing this change out, of course, for the benefit of their subscribers. So the main question is, will this benefit our subscribers' experience? Yeah. Okay. Coming from Benjamin Labadan, Sir Richard and Engineer Paga and Sir Noel, answer my question to Dr. Wong a while ago about the statistics of how successful have the two main deployers of Open RAN, like Rakuten and Dish, in facing the main challenges in implementation of Open RAN. That is premised on the face that these are common subject matters today, such as the value chain. The statistics of how successful have the two main deployers of Open RAN, si Rakuten and si Dish. Wala na kasi.
Wala na si Dr. Wong. I don't have the figures, right? But maybe we have a connection with Rakuten. We can ask Rakuten on how they're progressing. And maybe they have a test case, right, Sir Richard?
Yep.
And then, as I recall po, Rakuten shared, they deployed their network parang in only 4 or 6 months. Parang ganun. Kung i-compare mo siya sa isang deployment na traditional, that would take 1 to 2 years siguro eh. But for them, di ba? That's a big leap in terms of the deployment.
Yep. And then it was quite fast and easy also kay Rakuten because they started as a ICT company, di ba? And then they transitioned sa telco. So they already have the skill set ng ICT eh. And then they applied the Open RAN system. So when they try to build the Open RAN, it's just like building from greenfield. And then when they get this frequency from the government, so dineploy agad nila yung 4G and then 5G immediately. So kaya mabilis silang naka-deploy agad. Same thing din yata kay Dish. Si Dish was previously, as far as I remember, parang cable or satellite or broadcasting station. I'm not sure, no? So ganoon din, no? So nung ginawa si Dish is meron na binigyan siya ng equipment and then they started from greenfield. So kaya mabilis ang nila, no? If you start your from greenfield situation. Kaya isa sa mga titingnan kapag magde-deploy ng Open RAN is for the greenfield applications. Lalo na sa mga areas without coverage of the existing network.
Correct. Small cities that are really hard to reach.
Merong dito si Jerry, John Legasto. So he mentioned strategy plan would look like all equipment that are tagged to be replaced due to obsolescence caused by discontinued product support o nag-end of life na or recommend replacement unit must be Open RAN certified. And the driver of upgrading the system to Open RAN compliant is tied up to consumer demand. So an unquenchable thirst for low-cost internet connectivity at their cheap price. Okay. Hi sir, sabi ni August, is there a governing body in the interoperability of ORAN in the Philippines? I think wala pa, no? Kasi mostly
wala pa yan.
Natin is nasa ORAN Alliance at si TIP. Question from Al Mokhtar Pendatum. Are we anticipating that the Open RAN would be the default architecture of the new upcoming network generations after 5G? And so he's talking about 6G after 5G.
Hopefully yes, right? And that's the real target, right? That's why everybody is supporting it. Because it promises a better service, an open system, more players, more faster deployment, right? So hopefully.
Additional part to my question above from Sir Benjamin, how successful have they been based on the KPI reviews so far? Last time nung nag-present si Rakuten based on their KPI in terms of the throughput compared sa worldwide KPI, Sir Benjamin, it's they are one of the best dun sa throughput nila. And then I think one of their services is free 1 gigabyte yata per subscriber, no? Parang ganun ang ino-offer nila. There is one slide from Rakuten. I cannot remember specifically ano yung isa sa mga ano nila. So meron silang mga ganung promo, no? So malaki yung capacity rin nila. And then yun, in terms of the performance compared sa worldwide performance ng mga other operators, so isa si Rakuten sa sa magaganda yung mga performance ng KPI. And then sabi nga si Rakuten is sila yung pinaka idol, no, ng ibang telco na gustong pumunta sa sa Open RAN. From Sir Lemuel Lapada, with all the benefits of ORAN, is the ORAN advocates or alliance plans to establish a new telco players independently that will run in the ORAN system fully, so that the existing telcos can be forced to compete, then finally embrace ORAN.
It depends on the investor. Kaya nga yung my presentation in the value chain, our presentation is targeted to chief technology officers, venture capitalists. So hopefully, if they will be part, or maybe active in our presentations and with Asian Open RAN Academy, we could convince those investors, right, to maybe put up another telco operations that will be competitive to the big players here in the Philippines. Malay mo, imbitahin mo si All Homes, di ba? Si Manny Villar sa presentation natin, di ba? He has the money. Why not?
Okay. Question from Randall. Does the Open RAN system has unified network KPI also, or still depends on the vendors? Ito, need nating ma-identify. Kasi last time, it depends sa vendors, kung ano yung ginamit mo ring vendors. But there must be a unified KPI also. But we will have this answer, Randall, once we get one of the speakers dito sa network KPI ng vendor. From Raymond Domingo, who are they participating university for the courses? I forgot the whole list, no? But
alam ni Tony yan.
Tony, yung mga
is Tony around?
Paulit lang, Richard.
Sino daw yung mga
list down na universities na participating sa ORAN. Yep.
Okay. We have a list, although wala pa talaga yung formal because we haven't been into contract signing yet kasi we're still SEC incorporating. So far, we have the top 4. We have UPUST Ateneo Lasal. And then recently, we have yung letter of interest na from Visayas State University and Carlos Hilado. We're still waiting for other universities na they have to send us a letter of intent or letter of interest para mas official.
So that's the way, no, para sumali. Sabi kasi ni Raymond is how to enroll. Paano daw isasali yung kanilang mga schools.
Oo, kasi mahirap mag-assume na because they attend webinars, they attend meetings,
right.
kasama na sila, diba?
So there should be a letter of intent from the university, right, Tony?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
Yep, dito lang ako.
Coming from Arfin, it was mentioned that RIC uses AI and machine learning. What programming language is or most used by the current or available RIC technology solutions?
That can be you can use Google for that. Maraming when it comes to AI, right? There are Python for machine learning. So there are a lot of those languages available. Pero
Okay.
normally it's the basic platform would be C++, right?
Sabi ni Jason, this question may not be technical but is always a concern of everyone. Mas mura na po ba ang internet if Open RAN is implemented sa bansa? Especially for budget data users.
Dapat, ba? Kasi nga kaya nga major players will drive down the cost, right? Dami mo ng hindi ka na captured market.
Na-solve na natin to kanina. Considering that, sabi ni Nicholas Yu, considering that there are different vendors in Open RAN, will there be a common network management system to manage them all? Tara, banggit kanina to. Meron. Yung natin, yung SMO. Service Management and Orchestration. Si SMO.
Meron. Makikita doon sa open architecture na present kanina ni Engineer Paga.
Eto, sabi ni Randall, sir, on the hardware compatibility, pwede ba natin gamitin yung existing radio units to Open RAN? Yan. Actually, cannot, no, Randall, kasi meron siyang proprietary, yung interface nun, Randall. And one of the key feature ni Open RAN, yung interface natin, like for example, from the RRU going to the BBU, dapat open yon, no, para mag-usap si RRU and si BBU. Currently, sa mga current system natin, naka-proprietary yung dalawang yan. Yung interface na yon. So, yun ang binubuksan kay Open RAN. From Robert Parado, what is the benefits of Huawei, ZTE, Samsung, Nokia, and Ericsson they can get if they join the Open RAN Alliance?
Actually, the four dito sa lima na to is they are part of the Open RAN Alliance.
Yep, they already joined.
Except si Huawei.
Except si Huawei. Diba? Sabi nga kanina ni Dr. Wong, ZTE is one of the newest member.
Mm-hmm.
So they have more benefit joining than not joining, right?
Okay. From Carlo Amigable, what is the best strategy you can recommend to a telco operator in order to start an ORAN proof of concept from telco operator side? It is very challenging to deal with different vendors for each part of the ORAN value chain. Yan, sabi niya, no?
May nagtanong na kanina, di ba? May mga proof of concept, may KPI, network KPI. So maybe the telcos can look at that, right? Yung mga data no.
Mm-hmm.
And if it really makes sense, right? Adopting the system.
And I think from the presentation ni Dr. Ian, VIAVI is also providing a POC.
Mm-hmm.
If operator wants to try out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Kasi each operator is different from each other. So they have a different needs, no, and targets and objectives. So kaya nagkakaroon ng POC. So they are looking at those results sa POC. So in which part of their in their business they can really apply these proof concepts.
Yep. Ngayon ang uso fintech, 'di ba? Mamaya is specific application daw, GCash. Mga Paymaya, 'di ba? Kung mabilis sa connection mo, saka hindi na puputol, wala kay sosoling pera.
Okay, next question from Anna Jane Monte. Given that Filipinos are still the most texters and mobile callers, how is the Open RAN can help to be cost efficient in terms of power consumption if the demand from most of the end users still needs the 2G? Cost efficient in terms of the power consumption. Mm-hmm. If the demand from most of the end users still needs the 2G. But you can still make call yung ano na still needs a 2G because probably you're pertaining about the user equipment yung telepono. If most of the subscribers are in the 2G. Yeah, that's why one of the considerations ni operator before nila kasi maririnig mo, you can learn that some of the operators in other parts of the world are shutting down yung kanilang mga 2G. That's because they already studied the demographics ng kanilang mga subscribers that they are ready to migrate from one technology to another. But for the Philippines, I think if because I don't have the demographics din, kung ilan pa yung mga 2G only devices natin dito sa Pilipinas, but probably the operators know this already. And then that's the one considerations. And how they can migrate it from one technology to another, from 2G to 3G. So if their equipment or the user or the mobile stations are already capable of 3G, kung kunyari 2G, 3G siya, at pwede na siyang i-migrate from another technology. So maybe that's the time that they can do the migration. So for the Open Run, if that will be the cost effective, so it will be on the power consumption naman ng Open Run. So yung design naman ng hardware ng Open Run. Kasi if we talk about power consumption sa isang radio access network, ang pinaka matlakas na power hungry yung mga RRU. Almost 80% ng power consumption is nanggagaling sa RRU. Second is yung BBU, yung mga baseband unit. So if we're trying to look at implementing Open Run, so there should be an power efficiency na idadagdag yan sa pagdating sa mga white box concepts ng Open Run system. Okay.
Time check, Sir Richard. 11:34 na.
11:30. Actually, we're completing all the questions until 12, sir, so that we can.
Okay.
So we can complete our requirement for the CPD activities also. And then we still have a lot, 37 questions in line pa.
Richard, kung nabasa mo na yung kay Doji sa chat.
Yeah, kay Doji, so sabi ni Sir Doji, for this Open Run to be more visible in Philippines, as stated a while ago, for other players like foreign investors to come in and invest, is to make sure our economic provision is amended. Yeah. If not, then we will only see PLDT or Globe.
Yeah, kasi there's also this news article that Mavineer is rolling out Open Run in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think telco or telecoms is one of those companies na pwede na yung private sector, o pwede na yung
Foreign.
international foreign companies.
Right, right. And that would be a game changer.
Yeah, and I think Dito has already partnered with SK Telecoms, and so far they have a 5G license or frequency. Yung now pala, it's not Dito, it's now.
Yeah, now
plus
that is the former Nextel, if I'm not mistaken. It's now. But before, maalala mo, there was in the mid-90s, there was a radio phone, right? It's actually Nextel. So now, talagang nawala na yung platform nila, and this is the time to upgrade and enter the mobile market.
Tony, merong question dito from Amenola. Hi, for this webinar, can we have a soft copy of the topics being discussed? Since the last session, I haven't received any. Hope for this to be provided due to the limited time given for these sessions.
Okay. Well, in response to that, we will be requesting JP and Sir Noel a copy of their presentations. However, not all speakers are willing to share their materials as it is. Kasi there are some proprietary daw in some of our speakers na they cannot just post it public. Kasi once we have your materials, we will make it PDF and all those things. But then it will form part of our shared resources that can be shared to everyone. So wait lang, the website is still being built.
Okay. Question from Carlo Saul Perez. Question: could be possible to have OCU and ODU over the cloud or just over the COTS? I think there is a possibility under the phase 2. I have seen some document like that, but there is a possibility it could be over the cloud. But most of the right now is on over the COTS. Is there any estimation about the cost per site or for ORAN and similar site for traditional RAN? Last time there was an estimate of I forgot the number. Forgot the number the last time, but it's in peso, Carlo. Maybe if someone from the operator can give us the ball figure again. As a comparison of ORAN and the traditional RAN. From RFI, from Gerard Tan mentioned, Carla, it's lower, and then you can set a meeting with we can set a meeting, sabi niya, he mentioned, and then comparison of ORAN and traditional RAN cost. Okay. From our the Open RAN architecture has cloud as its component, with the public cloud acting at the same time as data brokers and harvesting our data. So there's a link shared also. Would it be possible to change this component to a localized on-premise database center if we are to use it at least for our critical infrastructure?
Yeah, it would be a private cloud, right? Pag nasa data center, it's really possible.
Yep.
But
I think also if you are if the operator is looking for a public cloud, I think well, for me speaking, for AWS is providing an AWS outpost or an AWS zones where they can deploy a AWS equipment doon sa data center ng client. So ayun, para at least the data residency or the data sovereignty is nandun lang din sa territory ng client, hindi siya, 'di ba? Yung security concern natin na it will be distributed, hindi natin alam kung saan. Meron naman silang solutions for it.
Okay. Sir Richard, sa akin to. Will this Open RAN benefits telco engineers? Yes, no. Specifically for engineers. So if for engineers, if there's a new technology, it means a golden opportunity. No, that's why we are encouraging all.
The more you learn new technologies, the better you will not be obsolete in your organization.
And in this kind of times na nagme-merge yung ICT, telco, no? So you can see that the more sabi nga the more skill set that you have, the more valuable you become to the company. And the more valuable you become to the company, so it will be beneficial sa mga telco engineers. And not only for telco engineers, also from the ICT people that would like to venture in dito sa telco, and then telco to the ICT. No? So it's a merging of two important and the biggest industry, not only in the Philippines but in the world. Ito, does OSA have a list online of Open Run compliant equipment?
We have a list of players who are member of Open Run Alliance, right? So parang typical na rin sigurado yun, di ba? That if you will be part of that Open Run Alliance, normally your equipment will, be compatible with the Open Run architecture.
Okay, so some questions are being answered already. What is the effect of the ORAN implementation to us? Ito na, sagot na natin to. Okay, and then already answered by other people in the webinar. Since one big made some big steps addressing them. Okay. I'm just selecting all the questions. So after we complete all of this, I think wala na tayong magiging pending na questions.